Hello, I'm Joey, and I'm here to talk about the universes portrayed within electronic and printed media. So this time we're taking a trip to the Phantasy Star universe. We're going to the space and time of Phantasy Star IV. Well, normally you'd think we're going to take a look at the video game, but this is a look at the complete in-box game, but we're not actually looking at the game itself, merely the printed part of this electronic media, the actual physical package, the manual that comes with it, and even take a look at the case. So switching on the game is not really our main goal here. We are not looking at what the electronic game itself is telling us. We're going to look for what the physical part of the media is telling us. And this is actually an incredibly impressive game, and I strongly recommend it. And if you have played it before and want to take a look at this game again or look at another aspect of it, let's go over Phantasy Star IV. And if you have not yet ever experienced Phantasy Star IV, perhaps from this you'll get a little bit of perspective. If you were to collect this game, do you want the complete in-box version, or perhaps there's something about the manual or the box that you could do without, or you'd prefer to have? Yeah, perhaps not. But we're not going to be looking at the game itself. We're looking at part of the game, the physical, external part of the game. We'll save the game for a different time. Alright, so I'd like to talk about Phantasy Star IV for the Sega Genesis. Yeah, I have it in a plastic bag for a little extra protective layer. Alright, so this plastic bag is not exactly armor plating, but it's a little something. Anything to help fight against wear and tear, or any effect the atmosphere may throw at it, or just any layer of protection. This was an amazing game, and yeah, this is a complete in-box review, but it's not a mint in-box review. This is not in perfect condition. I really like the packaging for this, and they didn't. It's a cardboard box. Sega used to have such awesome packaging, and actually the box art for this is really cool. It's just not one of those durable plastic cases that were excellent for keeping all your game stuff together. So, one of the things about the UniMultiVerse overview, including its subcategory UniMultiVerse bits, in which we just do a little bit of an overview, usually something to do with video games in there, thus bit takes on a double meaning. Normally I'd focus on the universe portrayed within a piece of media, and Phantasy Star IV is a very interesting part of the Phantasy Star universe, a very special point in space and time for that series. And I'm actually, while I'm focusing on the media here, I'm actually focusing on the physical media, the complete in-box. So this is UniMultiVerse bits, Phantasy Star IV, complete in-box 1. Meaning the first time I take a good look at this, I might come back to the subject if I forget something I want to talk about, but just a quick look at the physical, printed, package material. Yeah, I often talk about, the worlds portrayed in electronic and printed media. Well, this is electronic media, but we're focusing on the printed part. Alright, so here we have Phantasy Star IV. Yep, I left it in the original plastic wrap it was sold in, and there's a sticker. Yeah, I purchased this from a Canadian Tire. I suppose that's not immediately noticeable by the price sticker on it, which isn't really a price sticker, it's more of a product code sort of sticker thing. I got it from a Canadian Tire. It was on sale for half price. I was really lucky. I had enough money to get a video game. This was a game I really wanted, and I purchased it, and at the same time I got Star Wars Arcade for the Sega 32X. At the same day I got Phantasy Star IV for the Sega Genesis, because the games were half price and all of a sudden I could afford 2 instead of just being able to afford 1. And as you can see, the package, the box, the physical whatever didn't hold up too well. There's the manual. It looks nice even in black and white. But the box didn't hold up perfectly. You can see the cardboard internal parts of it have kind of folded in a way they weren't supposed to, and the cartridge can slide back and forth. There's a nice looking cartridge. And you know what? The box, it still holds the cartridge well. Most of the time the box is held up well, but this one didn't. This was probably one of the first games I ever got that was sold by or made by Sega that came in one of these cardboard boxes. But see, part of it folded in a way that it shouldn't have folded in. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Phantasy Star IV must have been one of the first games that Sega had sold when they stopped using the really nice plastic boxes they used to sell the games in. Sometimes referred to as clamshell cases, I guess because of how they open, I guess. I actually don't really care for the name clamshell. But anyway, the back of the package looks really nice. The manual, the art on the manual looks good, even in black and white. An ad on the back for Shining Force 2. Shining Force 2 and Shining Force 1, I have a somewhat positive opinion of them, but I'm far more familiar with Shining Force CD myself. Same summer, I think it was summer of 95, could have been 96. But anyway, the same summer I purchased Phantasy Star IV. I believe a little earlier that summer I got Shining Force CD. It was another amazing, excellent purchase. Shining Force CD for the Sega CD. Another excellent role-playing game by Sega. And that was really cool. I was very glad to have gotten those old Sega role-playing games. Yep, and there it was, a Shining Force game advertised on the back of a Phantasy Star game. Yeah, we're really here to talk about the packaging and physical media of Phantasy Star IV. So let's take a look at the manual. And really, there's not too much in here you wouldn't be able to figure out on your own. I actually enjoy flipping through the manual. Video game manuals in general, I've always enjoyed flipping through and just seeing a physical document about the game I've been playing or about to play. And yes, there's some background story in this, in addition to taking a look at the Sega controllers. And it's kind of cool to see that the artwork and the story. And while I do prefer to have the manual, if somebody out there is looking to collect this game and play it on the Sega Genesis itself, the story that is told in the manual, you can pretty much find it all on the actual game cartridge. So you're not really missing too much if you don't have the manual. I just find it's really cool to have the manual and flip through it, but you can figure everything out. It's a pretty standard turn-based role-playing game. There's not too much you're going to have trouble figuring out. I enjoy looking at the little black and white pictures. I suppose it would have been more classy or high quality if they had done color, but the game's in color, and I even enjoy looking at this in black and white myself. And the details on the characters, that's kind of cool to see them summed up. But again, while I do recommend getting the manual if you can, I could easily see somebody looking at the manual and thinking, well, I want to collect the game, but you know what? No. If it's more expensive or harder to find with the manual, yeah, just go for the cartridge. I could understand that attitude, and I would tend to agree with it. If you can't get the manual, well, that's fine. You're not really missing anything. The full Phantasy Star IV experience is right there in the game. And this is the game in the Phantasy Star series that basically you discover why in Phantasy Star II and Phantasy Star I you have this reoccurring evil force attacking your solar system. It explains the supernatural forces. There's a map, that's kind of cool, but you won't have any trouble finding your way around that world anyway. Phantasy Star 2. Phantasy Star 2 is the one where at the end you discover your planet's relationship to Earth. You find out roughly what happens to Earth in the future, in the Phantasy Star universe. And, well, here's another look at the package. Yeah, there's the box, the internal part of the box. It didn't exactly hold up perfectly. The cartridge itself, I like Sega's artwork on these. I like how they used red for Genesis, blue for Sega CD, purple for Game Gear, and yellow for 32X. It stands out to me. I like the look of it. I like how the boxes are more tall than they are wide, when you're looking at the art on them. I like that appearance. Yeah, I like the look of this game. So if you can't get the package, if you can't get this game complete in box, or if you can get it cartridge only, and you're looking for this game, obviously you're not missing too much by not getting the box and the manual. But it definitely is cool to have them. The manual gives you a look at the background story of Phantasy Star, especially the details of Phantasy Star 1 and Phantasy Star 2 are alluded to in it. But all that is covered very, very effectively in the game itself, in the actual electronic media. So you're not missing much if you don't have the package for this game. But there it is. If you're curious about it, you're seeing it now. And Phantasy Star 4, excellent game, very important to the Phantasy Star series. It gives us the origins of the Algo solar system and why supernatural forces, in a very science fiction-y way, are manifesting every 1,000 years. And of course, if you go back to Phantasy Star 2, you'll actually see humans from Earth, as opposed to these humans who appear to have evolved on the Algo solar system, perhaps encouraged to evolve by the Great Light, one of the beings that has been tampering with the Algo solar system. Yeah, as we know, our regular human form, normal, regular humans that we know of in the real world, they evolved on Earth. And Earth does have a slight presence in the Phantasy Star universe, but it's more noticeable. It's only noticeable in Phantasy Star 2, really. Well, maybe Phantasy Star 0 as well. I forgot about Phantasy Star 0 there for a moment. But this is an amazing game. I consider it the best video game ever made. It's worth getting complete in box if you can, but as I explained, just about anything in the complete in-box experience, you can all that information, everything is very easily uncovered in the game itself. You're not losing much by not having the complete in-box experience. Well, it wouldn't really be much of a UniMultiVerse overview, even a little bit of one, if I didn't discuss other series that complement the series that we're talking about here. Yes, well, Star Trek The Next Generation, especially some of the games on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, well, actually the game on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, does a pretty good job of explaining a lot of science fiction ideas and concepts which can be seen in Phantasy Star 4. Space travel, other dimensions, parallel universes, It even talks about how the white hole event could be a big bang of a parallel universe protruding into our contemporary space-time. But anyway, let's get to something a little bit more current. Pier Solar. Pier Solar has references hidden away within it to Phantasy Star IV, and I believe it would complement any Sega Genesis role-playing game very well. So you also might want to take a look at Pier Solar, as well as Star Trek The Next Generation for the Sega Genesis. But definitely check out Pier Solar. And it's worth mentioning, I briefly mentioned this when I talk about Ghostbusters, Sega Ghostbusters. And of course I've talked about Ghostbusters for the Sega Genesis and Sega Master System. UniMultiVerse Bits, Sega Ghostbusters Bit 1. You might want to consider checking that out. I briefly mentioned Phantasy Star IV. Yeah, it's only brief. Just mentioning that. Well, both Ghostbusters and Phantasy Star use kind of a science fiction-y way of explaining the supernatural, where I think both series complement each other very nicely. And both game series can be played on the Sega Genesis and, in the case of the earlier games, Sega Master System. And well, given the fact I just talked about a Sega Genesis game, perhaps, just perhaps, we could take a look at the genesis of video games, the origin of video games, not the Sega Genesis, not that, but that which generated the video game multiverse, the original video game systems. Perhaps I could talk about one of those sometime soon. One of those original video game systems sometime soon. In the beginning, you had the Magnavox Odyssey, the Atari Pong machines, and of course, the Coleco Telstar devices, or the Coleco Telstar consoles, such as the Coleco Telstar Alpha. Yeah, the big bang of the video game multiverse. The primordial singularity from which all video game consoles and the realms generated by them evolved from. Yep, the origin of video games, the first generation video game consoles. Here we have the Coleco Telstar Alpha. And, well, it's the genesis of video games. Well, other than the Sega Genesis. In this case, Genesis meaning origin. It's the Coleco Genesis. Coleco's part of the first generation video game consoles. You know, you can play both the left side of the screen and the right side of the screen, you know. I can play with myself, or if you want to be my second player, you can play with my knob. Come on, play with my knob. It's fun.